Welcome to Studio 58A live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook and Instagram. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone joining us online wherever you are. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for your eyes. And like how we have your attention, do us a favor now. Share this video with a friend or two or 500 so we can have a very, very lively discussion. And as you watch, remember to send in your questions and your comments, right? So to begin, banana fritters. Banana cake, boiled banana with ackee, saltfish, callaloo, or stewed chicken, and best of all, banana porridge. Now try to imagine, if you can, that none of these exist anymore. Imagine with me a Jamaica in which all these delicious dishes no longer exist. Lord, I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. But the thing is, Jamaica is actually facing this possibility. There is a plant disease out there that has the potential to wipe out our banana plants if we don't take the necessary precautions. It's called the tropical race 4 TR4 disease, and it's considered the most destructive disease of banana in modern times. Since I don't really want to be in a world without bananas, I have here in studio with me Miss Janet Conie from the Banana Board, and she's here to help us understand this TR4 disease and, more importantly, how we can keep it out of Jamaica. Welcome, Miss Conie.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Miss Conie, give us some of the backstory. What's going on with this disease? Where did it come from and why is it attacking our bananas?
Well, tropical race 4 is actually a race of fungus called Fusarium oxysporium efcubensi.
Okay.
If you don't bother. And this particular strain is tropical race 4.
Mm-hmm.
There are other strains of the disease, race 1, for example, that affected Gros Michel, as we call it in Jamaica, but it's really called Gros Michel. That strain actually almost wiped out Gros Michel. And so we had to change to the varieties that you're used to eating every day, the Cavendish.
Right.
So race 1 doesn't affect that. There's another race 2, that affects what we call blogo, or we call it frog banana.
Yeah, okay, frog
right?
banana.
And if you're frog planting or frog banana from country, that one. And then race 3 affects heliconia. Which is a nice horticultural plant that is a relative of the banana family. But tropical race 4, which is a race that we're dealing with, affects all of those, including plantains.
No,
and
sir. That disease,
so that
it got too hard, Miss Conie.
Exactly.
It attack a plant in our banana. It can't work.
We hope not. It has existed for a long time in Taiwan. It has been there since 1964. It stayed in the Asian continent for a while, moving around. It jumped a continent and came to Africa in 2013. And from that time, we in Jamaica have been, preparing ourselves.
Let me just stick a pin. Somebody online, Tracy and Howell, is asking what's the topic. Well, Tracy, and we're talking about a disease that's affecting our banana plants in Jamaica. Well, it has the potential to. It hasn't gotten here yet, right, Miss Conie?
No, it's not.
It's not here yet. And hopefully Miss Conie is going to give the farmers and all agriculturalists information so they can help keep it away from Jamaica. Because if you're like me and you love banana, you don't want this anywhere near Jamaica at all. Just imagine, no more banana fritters. Not if you just even like ripe bananas alone.
Exactly.
Banana fritters, porridge.
Chips,
What you
nothing.
like banana chip. No, sir, it can't. We need continue, Miss Conie. How do we keep this disease out of our country?
Okay, so I'm just finishing to say
right.
that it jumped, but this year in August, Colombia announced that they have the disease. So it is now in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
So we are now on extremely high alert.
Right.
And we're not alerting just banana farmers or people in the agriculture industry. We are alerting everybody.
Right.
Because anyone can bring it.
Oh, yes.
Anyone can bring it. It can be transmitted in the soil. So if you go to a country where there's that disease and you go to that farm and you carry it in on your shoes to Jamaica, to a banana farm, you bring the disease with you. You can carry it with you if you touch the plant. And it's, banana plants have what we call latex and stain. It is in that. You can bring it with that. You can bring it on your clothes. You can bring it if you bring a plant of any kind or a piece of a plant. Even the dried leaves that have been dried and you use it to make a mat, that can bring it. The disease has a spore in it that stays in that for years. It can stay in the soil up to 30 years. Wow. So it's a very devastating disease. And so we're trying to alert everyone how not to bring that disease to Jamaica. We're preparing ourselves to identify the disease. We are retrofitting our labs and teaching our scientists and our extension officers and our border patrol people or quarantine officers at the airport or customs officer and immigration officers how to help us to keep it out. We're even talking to marine police who will accost persons on boats. We don't want them to bring a banana from those countries that may have the disease. Colombia is not very far from us.
Indeed.
And so we're on high alert. We travel, it's a global world. We travel very often, and therefore it can be brought by passengers. We have a lot of persons who work in different countries.
Absolutely.
The disease is in China.
And
we have a lot of Chinese here. We have earth-moving equipment that we use in one country.
From China that can easily transmit it.
So there are a lot of avenues that it can come, and we're trying to identify all of the areas, all of the control points, all of the risks, and so we're putting together a formula specifically for Jamaica to how to keep this disease out. It's not anything brand new because we're collaborating with our neighbors. We're collaborating with all of Latin America and the Caribbean. We have a plan, it's called the ERISA plan, that everybody is using, but what we have to do is tailor it to our needs. For example, we know that we do have fishermen who come from different countries who fish in our waters, who sometimes come on board.
Right.
They may bring things, so we have to look at those things. And that is why we're talking to the Coast Guard and the Marine Police, and we're talking to all those persons, not just to look for contraband, as we know it, drugs,
Absolutely.
but very dangerous. A piece of banana material can be as dangerous as that. It can wipe out an entire industry.
All right. Matisse Lindo is asking, do you know how much bananas we import monthly or yearly? Just because, that can give us an idea of the scope, even though you said it's not necessarily limited to just the banana plants themselves.
Let me answer that very, very emphatically. Because of diseases like these, there are people who, most countries, and Jamaica in particular, we who produce bananas, we import no bananas from anywhere, no fresh material. We are also including in the new quarantine order, to stop importation of any banana plant material of any kind, including the dried ones.
Absolutely.
So we do not import. The only importation we do is for products that have already been transformed, like chips that you cook. But even products that we used to import, like mats or straw hats that have been made
were made with the leaves and so on.
We no longer can do that because you can import through that. So we do not import any banana material of any kind. We only import cooked, transformed, totally cooked banana
processed and where it kills all the bacteria and that kind of thing. I think Matisse Lindo agrees with you. He says, I guess we need to eat what we grow in order to limit importation from countries that are known to carry this disease. Absolutely. But as Miss Conie just said, she said we don't import any. So I guess we're safe on that score.
Right.
Which is fantastic. Right. So what would be the contingency plan should, the disease unfortunately, arrive in Jamaica? What would be the contingency plan that we have?
All right. There are some things that we have been putting in place. We need to be able to detect the disease as quickly as possible.
Yes, indeed.
So one of the things that we're doing out all over the agricultural community is sensitizing farmers, persons who have banana trees, as to what the disease looks like, so that they can identify. But what we're telling persons, if you have a sick tree, a sick banana plant, that you don't know what it is, call us at the banana board.
Absolutely.
Don't cut it. Don't bring a piece. just mark the spot and call us, because you can transmit it. If you do have it, if you cut it with a knife, that knife can transmit it to another plant. If you move that piece of material, you can move it to another area.
It's really
so we're
that,
saying to you,
it's
very,
really that,
very,
that contagious, if you
very
will.
contagious. For example, in Colombia, where it is found, they found it in April, I understand. Official date is June. But between April and July, when they officially released their diagnosis, 150,000 hectares was affected. They had to destroy all of that.
Wow.
And this is their first identification. So it can be that devastating. When you do find the disease, we keep it where it is. We quarantine that area. We will have to identify, and so the Banana Board has a lab, a PCR lab. It's a very specific diagnostic method. We have acquired the material. We have trained our laboratory officers. We're collaborating with scientists in other labs that do that. We have established relationship with overseas laboratories to confirm anything that we have, so that we can find it fast. What we want from the public is to call us so that we can identify as early as possible. When we do identify, and this is just if we identify,
knock on wood, that
we would
don't
quarantine
identify
that area. So for every plant that is affected, a 15-meter radius around that, all of those plants would be affected very quickly. So in order to curtail that disease, we'd have to try and eradicate it right there. So we take out all of those plants.
Absolutely. Right. So
and therefore, we don't want farmers to be, hesitant, because I know farmers can be, and it's their living.
Yeah, of course.
And so they can be hesitant. But if you take out one, you'd be only if you found it in one plant, you'd be sacrificing just that 15 meter square around it. However, if you should leave it, it will affect all those other plants, and it will spread very, very rapidly.
You're practically starting to lose your whole investment, essentially.
And it will not only affect you, it will affect your neighbor. It will spread. If we don't do what we need to do to curtail, meaning we'd fence it around, we'd make sure no animals can go in, because not only can people...
Yes, exactly.
We have chickens and goats that walk around in those children.
Right.
We have to ensure that the area is curtailed. That's our first attempt, would be, as long as we have confirmation, we would try and take it out. Now, we don't want anybody to be alarmed, because we had another disease like this in 2004. It's called Moko disease. That was a bacterial one. This is a fungal one, and that disease is also in the soil. We had to do that. We had that disease when we found it early. It was in St. Mary, it was in St. Thomas, a little bit of it was in Portland, and a lot of it was in St. James. Now, using the same methodology that we're talking about, we managed to eliminate it in St. Thomas, eliminate it in Portland, eliminate it in St. Mary, and we only have a small area of it in St. James. And the only reason why we still have that is that persons were hesitant
to come forward.
And so we have a prolonged. If we don't catch it early and eradicate it early as best as we can, and it's very difficult to eradicate, I
can imagine.
If we do that, then we are able to carry on. That's one aspect of it. If the disease should remain, we'd have to learn how to manage. Now, what we are doing is collaborating with other persons. The long-term management of the disease is to find another variety that it doesn't affect, like we did when we got the disease on
Cavendish
Gros
one,
Michel.
right?
And so we have put another strategy, another contingency in place. There's a new variety that we have been distributing for the past, since 2013. That is called the FEA 25. It's a more productive plant. It produces maybe 30 to 50% greater yield. It is not a variety that tastes as nice as a Gros Michel. It's not a variety that tastes as nice as a Cavendish, as a ripe fruit. So we're not promoting it.
Lesser quality banana, Miss Conie.
All of the varieties that are resistant don't taste as good as what you used to. None of them.
So
this one is really a banana that we have been promoting for chips and value added. But that was the case with Cavendish before we had race 1.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to tell persons is, sometimes our taste will change later on. But what the best thing to do is to exclude this disease. So we are doing some other things as well. Very soon, we'll be putting mats at the airport, disinfecting mats. So when you come in from countries overseas, you walk on those mats, and those mats will allow you or your shoes
disinfect
to be disinfected. We're asking persons to adhere. There's a thing that when you go abroad and you fill out your immigration form, it asks if you've ever been on a farm. It asks if you have plant material. We're asking you to be truthful. Okay. But we're not only asking you to be truthful, we ask you not to go on a banana farm when you go overseas.
And this could be even a friend of yours who has banana plants in their backyard.
Exactly. We're asking you not. Don't. It's like when you're young and you do things that are wrong, and your mother says, don't try and experience things that are bad for you. This is one of them. We're asking persons not to go into banana fields, especially ones you know have the disease. Don't go to look at it.
Okay.
We will show you what it looks like in pictures. We don't want to bring it back here. We do have Panama disease race 1 occasionally on the little bumpy bananas that we have. We call them, well, my relatives call them bumpy, but they are apple bananas or honey bananas. Those come down. Those come down with race 1 as well, like Gros Michel. So occasionally, sometimes you see those come down, and a person says, come to us and we check it out, and it turns out to be race 1. But the symptoms are exactly the same. Looks no different.
Which brings us to that question, because people online are asking, what are the symptoms? What should they be looking out for? Wayne, J-Rock, Finest, Bazo, I see your question here. I want to get to it. Symptoms of the disease. And Candice Christina on Facebook is asking, what are the symptoms of it? So what should people be looking out for,
essentially, the plant looks sick. It starts out looking... The earlier you find it, the better. The very earliest symptom is you will look at the older leaves, and the older leaves are the ones nearer to the ground. The banana puts out a leaf almost once every week if you treat it right. The older ones are nearer to the ground. Those will get a light yellow color around the edges of it. Eventually, it gets yellow more and more. That yellowing progresses towards the midrib, which is the center vein. And eventually it buckles. Sometimes, especially for some varieties, the yellowing doesn't progress, but the leaf buckles. The leaf starts to
droop and fall, and
eventually the entire mother plant droops. What is good? What is interesting about it is you will have a dying mother plant, but the sucker that's attached to it looks as healthy as anything, and that is one way the disease is spread. People will take that sucker. A banana plant put out quite a few suckers. They will take those suckers and try and replant other areas. So the plant will have a sick-looking mother and a very healthy sucker attached to it. This is interesting because Moco disease, the one I tell you about, is the other way around. It will have a sick mother and a sick sucker. But that is just something that we use to help you to identify.
Right.
Now the plant leaves just start buckling from the bottom until the whole plant buckles, until the whole plant just dies. But when it dies, the suckers will still be in the mat. That's essentially what you're looking at.
So, if you cut it, for example, is there any indication inside the plant itself or in the fruit itself?
If you cut it, I'm going to tell you what you see. We're asking you not to cut it.
Oh, okay. Don't cut it,
because in cutting it, you spread it around. I don't know if you know, I'm going to give you an analogy. Cancer. If a person has cancer and the doctor is going to try and remove the cancerous areas, he will remove the area, but he will not try to cut into it because he don't want the cells to spread around. Right. It's essentially the same. The disease produces millions of spores in the liquid that is there. And once you cut it, those will spread around. So that is what you don't want. But when you do cut it, you look, if you cut, and when we look at it, you can look from the bottom nearest to the ground, cutting what we call the pseudostem, you call the trunk. If you're cutting it horizontally, coming up like this, when you look into it, you will see at the very bottom, where there are no leaves yet, that we call the corm. You'll see little spots. Very early, you'll see little spots, reddish brown spots. If you catch it very late, those areas will be much larger. But essentially what is affected is the water conducting vessels. We call them xylem. But they are water conducting
water
vessels.
through the ground and
the
so on.
spores clog up those vessels, and they're reddish brown. And so those vessels stop the water from flowing, and that is why the plants begin to wilt and die. So it's actually looking like the plant is suffering from lack of water.
Okay.
But that is essentially what is happening. But when you cut inside, you see a lot of reddish brown areas. They get eventually very dark. If you cut coming up along where you have leaves, and your leaves fold over, then you in the veins of the leaf, in the water conducting vessels of the leaf, you will see those reddish brown areas as well.
All right. So
the disease this particular disease doesn't affect the fruits.
Okay, very good.
So for example, if the disease is affecting a plant that has a bearing tree, and you reap that fruit and it won't do you anything.
Okay.
It will have no effect upon you. You can eat the fruit quite well.
All right. Quickly, Zaki LG Lewis, we're talking about bananas here. Stay tuned to the discussion. What we're talking about is a disease that is affecting, that has the potential to maybe even wipe out Jamaica's banana industry, because it's a devastating disease that pretty much there's no cure, as it were, and it just spreads very rapidly and attacks the plants and causes them to die, and the fruit can basically die out, for lack of a better phrase. So we're talking with Ms. Conie here from the Banana Board. She's giving us tips on how we can keep it out of Jamaica and preserve our industry, right? So let me just interject one quick question. So Pashek C.H. Lewis, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Pashek. If not, let me know. How do you dispose, if you see a plant or if you suspect that a plant might have it, how is a person supposed to respond? Should they call you, or should they try to do it themselves? What should they do?
They should never do it themselves. They should always call the Banana Board.
Okay.
Always. If you call RADA, they will call us. If you call the Plant Quarantine Division, they will call us. Do not touch it. Let me just say, just
leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. We will come in, we will take our samples, we will tape it back up, or we know how to tape it back up. We never leave any pieces around. We know how to collect the samples. We know how to disinfect our hands, our feet, our tools. We are telling farmers to prepare themselves. For example, in areas where they do have the disease, farmers have foot baths at the entrance and the exits of their farms, because they don't want persons to come on their farms with soil that may have the disease that spread it around on their farms. We are preparing our farmers, and we're showing them how to get that done, to prepare themselves to do that. There are farmers, some of our banana farmers who we have sensitized, who are putting that in from now, and are carrying out some of the practices that we're telling them to do when the disease comes, because they want to ensure that it never comes to their farm.
Right.
For example, there is a practice that you would have to do if you had the disease, and there's a practice that farmers in the West does who have Moko disease.
Right.
If you have a plant that you're going to reap this plant, and you're going to reap that one, the knife you use to reap this one has to be disinfected before you reap that one. So you have two sheets and you have disinfections. If you go into a field, when you come out of the field, you need to disinfect your foot. Vehicles are a great means of spreading the disease. If a farmer in countries where the disease is, farmers try not to make vehicles come onto their farm. We're telling farmers in Jamaica, if you don't need to have persons drive onto your farm, don't allow them to drive onto your farm. Because if to drive onto your farm, you need a vehicle bath for you to drive in, or you need a power wash with the requisite material. No, because in Jamaica right now, we have bleach. We're telling farmers, prepare yourselves. Even now, every day on your farm, everybody who comes to use a knife on your farm, sometimes we have workers who carry their own knives. We're telling them, you need to disinfect your knives before you start, and disinfect in 10% bleach. However, there's a better material that we don't yet have in Jamaica that we're trying to register so that we can have it should this disease come. It's called quaternary ammonia products. We don't use it in Jamaica now because we don't have a disease like this, but we need to get that in Jamaica.
Be proactive and get it here just in case.
Get it here. We had to get that material when we had Mocha disease, but we because we curtailed it and restricted it so much, we no longer have that product. We need to get that back. These are some of the preparations we need to make.
Right. So those are, I mean, are there any other practical things that the farmers can do beyond, like, you know, as you said, getting 10% bleach and making sure that when they have their materials, they disinfect them regularly? What else should they kind of preparatory
there are some things that we're telling farmers to do. We're saying don't have people visit your farm if they don't have to come. If they come on your farm, we're saying if you want to put it in place from now, put a foot bath in place. Register persons who come on your farm so that we can trace should something happen.
Right.
We're also telling farmers, of course, we're telling don't invite visitors from overseas to your farm. Farmers are very proud people and they like to show people
their produce, what they're growing and stuff.
We have ecotourism now, where there are banana farmers who have tourists come on their farms. Those farms were saying, you need to put these systems in place now. You need to have your foot bath in place. You need to register the persons who come on. You need to show them where they can go, have areas where they go and areas where they do not go. We're telling farmers to do that. We're telling farmers to prepare to know what the disease looks like. So when we have our training sessions, come out. Avail yourself of the information that we have.
Support the training sessions.
We have done many training sessions. We have been to every parish and in the banana communities and done our training sessions. But occasionally, a church will say, I'm hearing about this. We have farmers in our community. Our church would like to have you. We do that as well. So we make ourselves available to teach. We're also asking farmers, first of all, walk to your plant, walk to your fields, and I know my banana farmers know. They'll tell you I know every tree in my plantation. Keep being familiar with it. When one looks sick, call us. Call us. That's what you're asking. Call us, and we will come and help them to
really put things
put
in
their
place.
mind at ease. So far, we have done many diagnoses, and they're all so far negative. When we think we have, and there's a way, you can sometimes have what we call false positives. When we have that, we will collaborate with our colleagues in South Africa, and they will help us to confirm.
So I guess the fundamental message is that you have a plan, essentially.
You
have a plan in place, and you're urging persons to be a part of it so that we can protect our plan.
Yes, and it only will work if every Jamaican is aware, every Jamaican play his part, and they call us when they actually see anything that does not look, like a plant should look.
All right, so there you have it, people. I mean, this, you might just think this affects farmers or agriculturists or persons in the sector who are in some way growing bananas. But as she said, I mean, rightfully said, you might just be walking and your foot is in soil that has the disease. You in dried leaves, you might buy a mat that has the disease, a mat from a foreign country that has the disease, and you bring it into Jamaica and somehow that spreads. So there are many ways. It's frightening indeed, the many ways in which the disease can find itself into our country and so affect our industry. And we don't want that. I mean, this is the very idea that our banana industry could be wiped out is devastating to me personally.
I want to add one thing. Yeah. Remember, this disease not only affects bananas, it affects plantains.
Oh, yes,
but I want to add that it affects heliconia, the horticulture sector, who, heliconias are some of the plants that we import sometimes. We import a lot of horticulture from Colombia, the country that has it. So we're actually working out a situation to ensure that we do not bring that here. We're asking persons to be very, very mindful of the fact that one industry can affect another industry. And so in our task force, the government of Jamaica has established a task force which the Banana Board lead and I chair. We in that task force we have about 21 agencies represented on it because there are a lot of cross-cutting issues.
Absolutely.
We have foreign trade who we must talk to. We have the customs. We have
industry,
the police.
Different sectors, right?
We have the private sector, and we have not been engaged in the private sector very much yet, but This disease is very, very expensive to prepare for, expensive to diagnose, expensive to manage. And we would need to engage the private sector a little more to help us, especially at this particular stage. This particular stage is the awareness stage, the communication stage. And we're thankful to JIS for allowing us this media to
no
make
problem.
it available.
I mean, we have a personal stake in this as well. So, you know, absolutely. We're
and
here
so we need
for
to
it.
get the message out on many other means. And so we need to help. We need help from the private sector to help us with that, to ensure that it goes out there. The private sector, each individual company, has their own reach, and therefore we want them to use their own sensitization systems to carry the message to further than we can take it. And so we're engaging everyone to help us in this fight, to be prepared, first to exclude it, if not to diagnose it early, to contain it or eliminate it if we can, and then if not, for us to be able to manage it effectively, economically, so that we will always be able to enjoy a great tasting Jamaican banana and plantain.
I mean, this is an issue that we can all unite around. I'm sure we all love food.
Yes.
Jamaica is known around the world for its food. And bananas are a very core or almost a staple part of numerous dishes. This is, I mean, and this is something that cuts across all classes, all segments of society. Everybody enjoys bananas. Those who, you know, those who grow them to those who buy them to those who process them or grow them, cultivate them on a large scale and process them into various products that we use. So, I mean, this is essential. This is a message that is of vital importance. We don't want this disease here. Tropical race 4 disease. We don't want it here. We can just imagine the impact that it could have on our industry. Without even going to, do we export bananas?
Yes, we do.
And
our exports are increasing, so it impact that as well.
All right, so beyond just basic local consumption, it has a major impact for our, foreign exchange. We're able to export them and earn money and provide jobs for people. And so it's more than just feeding our country. We're able to earn from it as well. So we definitely don't want this disease anywhere near Jamaica.
All right, let me just give you a little bit some facts about our industry in Jamaica.
Sure, go ahead.
We have about 16,000 banana farmers, persons who say they grow bananas to sell, to make a living. And we also have 30% of that is not traded. That's what somebody grows to eat, families and friends. And bananas is the cheapest starch there is.
Yeah, there you go.
If you talk to persons who grow up poor, they'll tell you when we don't have anything, we eat banana and butter, or we eat banana with what we grow on the farm. It's the cheapest starch, and so we can't afford to eliminate that. That's a food security issue, a great food security issue. But further to that, we have 98% of Jamaican, our last study says they eat banana in some way.
98.
And in Jamaica we eat bananas fresh as a ripe fruit. We eat it fresh cooked as a green staple. We eat chips. We eat it in ice cream. We eat it as pastries. We eat it in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
In fact, we're not producing enough bananas in Jamaica
to satisfy
our demand. We import a lot of banana chips that we could produce ourselves. Now, what we don't want is for this disease to come, and we no longer have banana fresh fruits that we grow for ourselves, but we have to import something that we could have been doing ourselves.
Absolutely.
The banana industry itself is valued at about $20 billion. Persons when you look at the farm gate parity price, we just for what we produce to sell, not the value added part of it. It was estimated that part of it was about $9 billion. Now this is farmers' livelihood. We banana farmers engage other persons to work on their farms, especially those who ripen, those who export. This will impact a lot of persons.
Absolutely.
And therefore, for 1 hectare of banana, you engage 1 worker. We have more than 16,000 hectares of banana. That's the amount of person that would be impacted. It's a reality issue. It's not just we in Kingston who want a banana to eat. It in fact would impact rural
Perhaps more than,
much more
right.
than it would impact us in Kingston.
And just imagine 16,000 people just suddenly losing their livelihood.
Their livelihood. So we want
work.
to ensure that this disease never comes to Jamaica.
All right. Just changing tack quickly. A quick question. You as a plant pathologist, you can probably answer this. Just switch hats for a brief minute.
Yes.
For Carleen Blake. Carleen, we're going to take your question. Thank you very much for taking the time. She's saying, I noticed spider webs are taking over the place. I want to know if that is detrimental to plants.
No, not really. Spiders, in pathology, there are ways to deal with pests. Mm-hmm. And the common and not best way is people use chemicals. Mm-hmm. But the better way is for the predators of the pests to eat them.
Okay.
Now, spiders eat some of the pests that we have. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the fact that you're saying web and you're seeing spiders, it means that you have live organisms in your farm. Mm-hmm. You really want to encourage that, the biodiversity. However, as a farmer, as a person who teaches farmers how to grow bananas, when we see too much cobweb in a farm, we know you're not doing very well. You're not really maintaining your fields. Because if you're walking through and you're doing your bunch care and you're doing your fertilization and you're looking up, you wouldn't have those.
Right, you'd be taking care of it, yeah.
They're right there. But spiders do eat other insects, and so we don't normally want to kill anything that is not harmful. Okay. But the webs themselves, for us in bananas, it's an indication of how well you're taking care of your farm.
Not well.
You're taking care of your farm.
All right, so hopefully that answered your question, Caroline. Hopefully that gave you a little more insight. Thank you very much for your question. If you have any more, don't be afraid, send them in. Narshali TTGG, I hope I got that right. Don't blame me if I didn't. She's saying she knows all about that life. And I guess she's referring to when you were talking about bananas being the cheapest starch and knowing having to eat banana and butter and knowing that, I guess she really appreciates the need for taking care of our banana industry. I mean, if all you can afford is banana and butter, the last thing you want to hear is that there's no more banana, full stop. But Ms. Conie, this has been a very, very enlightening discussion. I really appreciate it. I mean, it opens our eyes to things that we perhaps never really appreciated. I'm sure many of us just see bananas and take it for granted that we can just get it wherever. We can just buy it from the fruit man by the side of the street or whatever. And so we never really take the time to appreciate where it comes from, what it goes through to grow and get to us on the little plate that we're eating it. And the idea that we can now kind of peek behind the fence and see exactly what's happening and understand the threat to it and appreciate just how significant, because when you mention that we export and it's the cheapest starch and many people rely on it just to subsist and you survive from day to day, one can just imagine and how many people might lose their livelihoods if this disease comes here and affects our banana industry. This is way bigger than we could ever have hoped, you know what I mean? And I hope everybody who's watching and listening and who will watch this later will appreciate how important a role they have to play in making sure that this disease doesn't come here. So I just want you to go back through again the things that we can all do to ensure that we try our best to keep it away from Jamaica. Yeah.
All right, we're asking persons, when you go overseas, not to visit a banana field.
Right.
If you happen to have to go to a banana field where the disease is, we're asking you to leave your shoes in that country.
Check.
We're asking you to leave your clothes that you wore in that country. We are also asking you to not to bring back any part of the banana plant with you. Whether it is dried or fresh, we're asking you not to bring it back to Jamaica. It is a potential threat. We're asking you to declare if you have been to a farm that has a banana farm. We're asking you to, when you come through the airport and you see the mats, and we're putting them so you can walk on them. Mm-hmm. Don't walk around them. Walk on the mat for the length of the mat because it needs to disinfect your shoes. We're asking you as banana farmers not to invite persons on your farm that don't need to be there. Mm-hmm. We're asking you not to invite persons who come from overseas on your farm if it's not necessary. We're also asking you to be very careful when it comes to using things on your farm. For example, the utilities, the knives and the utilities that you use on your farm. We're asking you to disinfect them every day.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking you not to borrow, not to use utilities between farms. It is done because, for example,
people have to share because, you know.
But we're asking you to learn to disinfect your implements before each operation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We're also asking farmers to begin to fence your farms if you can, so that you don't allow persons to walk through willy-nilly, animals to walk through willy-nilly, because quarantining your farm is really what's going to protect you.
Mm-hmm,
We're asking you, if you can, put in your foot baths from now. Ensure that the workers get used to walking through these foot baths to disinfect when they're coming onto your farm and when they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
We're also asking the farmers, and these are good commercial farmers, get a register. Don't invite anybody who doesn't have to be on your farm, but if somebody comes,
make a
note, date and time that they come, so that we can trace if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
We're also asking persons, if it's not necessary, don't allow persons to drive onto your farm. It's best that you have your vehicles that you can take care of and take your products out to them at the outside of the gate of your. We're also asking everybody to be mindful of what the disease looks like. And this includes us in Kingston, in Portmore, who have 1 tree, 2 tree, because guess what? A person doesn't have to go on a banana farm to bring the disease. They can come as a visitor on your farm, in your backyard, and infect your one plant, and somehow that infection gets out. And so we're asking every person who has a banana plant to know what the disease looks like. If your banana plant looks sick, call us at the banana board. If it looks wilted and dying, call us at the banana board. We're asking you not to touch it, not to cut it, not to bring us a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, take a picture, send it to us. We will look at it. We will come to your farm. We will do what we need to do. We will take the sample if necessary. We will take it back to our lab in Kingston. We will diagnose it if necessary. And we will come and do the necessaries to ensure that that disease stays where it is.
All right.
It will involve persons sacrificing that plant and maybe a few around it, but it is necessary to contain the disease so that it doesn't spread. We're asking persons to be aware when you go overseas, because the disease, it's not in Jamaica, and what we know, the history of this disease, because I was at a conference, the first TR4 conference in Miami 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
The disease moves with people. That's the common factor. Even if it moves in soil, it's persons who move it. If it moves on a vehicle, it's persons who move it. It moves with people. It moves with production. It moves when we move. So we have to be aware. So when the quarantine officer says, don't carry any plant material, don't carry any plant material.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're asking you to get the message and take it to others, because the disease is global. It affects Jamaica. It affects Colombia. Colombia is next to Venezuela, who grows banana, next to Guyana, next to Brazil, next to
Trinidad, next to
exactly. So we're not saying, we're not asking you to be mindful of where the disease is. I'm not mentioning all the other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Be mindful of where you're coming from and where you. Any country is a potential risk, because it's going to take a while for us to know that it's there, and by that time it could have spread.
Absolutely.
So we're asking persons not to go anywhere where there's a banana plant unless you really need to go.
All right. Well, see, all that information, I don't think I need to make any other points. There you have it. I mean, bananas are vital in so many different ways, and it's up to us to ensure that we can keep this dreadful disease away from our country and away from our industry, so we can continue to have that. Narshali TTGG says she eats like 10 bananas a day. She knows it's not good to eat so much a day, but she just loves banana. If she doesn't have bananas in the house, it's like the person doesn't have anything to eat. So she just hopes that we can do what we need to do to protect the lovely fruit. And I'm sure Miss Conie agrees 100% with it.
100%.
All right. So, I mean, thank you to everyone who tuned into our discussion. I think on that note, it's time for us to wrap. We really appreciate you taking the time to tune in, especially those of you who send in your questions and your comments. We really, really do appreciate it, and I'm sure you can appreciate just how significant the industry is. I mean, just go back over some of the things Ms. Conie mentioned. I mean, 16,000 hectares of banana, and that's one worker per hectare, so that's about 16,000 workers who potentially could lose their jobs if this disease comes here. I mean, just think about all the dishes that banana is used to make and the ways in which we enjoy it here. We are just losing all of those dishes, noting the fact that it's the cheapest starch. We might just take it for granted that bananas are just there, but that's the point. They are the cheapest and most available starch. A person can get that and use it as a nutritious way to supplement their diet. Now imagine not having that. And then imagine just losing the ability to export and be able to make money for the country. So this disease stands to have so many potential negative spin-off effects that it really is up to us to ensure that we protect it, protect our industry, and keep this disease as far away from our country as possible. Right? Now, thank you again for tuning in. We really, really do appreciate it. And if you have a question or something that you'd like to know, don't worry. Put them in the comments so we'll be able to go through and get that information to Miss Conie and the Banana Board so that they can answer you. As on that note, Miss Conie, should you share the numbers for the Banana Board so persons who might want to contact you can do so?
Okay, I'll do that. The Banana Board, and we have a website. It's thebananaboard.org. And the Banana Board email address is bananaboard@cwjamaica.com. You can call us, 876, of course, 876-922-5347. That's the number for the corporate office.
Mm-hmm.
The research department is 922-2083. 922-2083.
All right, there you have it. So all the ways, I'm not sure if you're on social media, but I mean, people can probably search you guys and find you as well.
They'll find us. If they look, they'll find us.
All right, so there you have it. All the information is there available online. Miss Conie just gave you the numbers, so you can call him if you have a banana, if you know a friend who's growing bananas in their backyard, somebody who has a farm, and everybody needs to pay attention. So it's up to us. I'm really passing the baton over to you to help make sure that we keep this disease, the tropical race 4 disease, away from Jamaica. Now, remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. So if there's anyone in particular you'd like us to have in studio to talk about any topic that concerns you, let us know, and we'll try as best as possible to have that person in studio soon. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's Jamaica Information Service. We're on every platform. To search for us, you'll find us, and I guarantee you'll get some very valuable and useful information that will benefit you in some way. We do this every Thursday. Well, it's Wednesday today, but we do this mostly on Thursdays. And this has been Studio 58A Live. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you for joining us, and please have a wonderful day.